For almost 15 years, I lived in the same house. It was in a mid-sized town, so not everyone knew everyone, but I was still at least familiar with most of my neighbors. Whenever someone moved in or out, it was pretty noticeable. 3 years ago, the family in the house directly across the street from me moved away after retiring. They listed, sold, and left the house within a week, which is really fast. However, it remained empty for 5 months. I never saw anyone move in, or any cars there, or anything at all, until one night while staying up late. I saw someone's headlights shine through the window, and after a couple minutes of the light not moving, I thought they were sitting outside of my house, so I got up and looked. There was a car in the driveway of the home across the street. It was parked, but still running, and its lights were still on, but standing right outside the driver door. There was a guy. He was facing my house, just looking at it, or maybe looking at me in the window. I don't know. I stayed in the window for 30 seconds, but the man didn't move, so I eventually just went back to the couch. I honestly didn't know what to make of it. I was more so just surprised to finally see the new owner at the house. Later, about an hour or so, when I got up to go to bed, I looked out the window again and saw that the car and the man were gone. Not sure if he had parked inside the garage or just left the house. I didn't think too much about it. When I got up, I went to work and didn't get back home until 7 o'clock. I noticed that the car was back. It was right there in the driveway, and the front door to the house was open. However, all the lights were off. When I parked and got out, I looked at their house for a minute because it was so strange. The front door was wide open, but it was pitch black behind it. Not a single light coming through any of the windows, or even in that front hallway. I headed inside, but kept thinking about how unusual it was. I had a bad feeling about that new neighbor, though I couldn't tell yet if he was just strange, or if I was overthinking all of it. Another few days passed. I was watching TV upstairs in the bedroom when I heard the doorbell ring. I checked the time and it was almost 10 o'clock, which was really late, so I thought it had to have been something urgent. I got up and hurried downstairs, looking out to see who it was. I wasn't absolutely positive, but it looked a lot like the new neighbor guy. Again, I'd only actually seen him that one time through the window, so it was hard for me to know for sure. As I stood there, he rang the doorbell again. I thought for a moment about whether I wanted to answer. Looking back, this seems like a terrible idea, but at the time, I thought there was no way he'd do anything since I knew exactly where he lived and I didn't even know the guy. So really, he had no reason to do anything. More than likely, he just needed help with something, and maybe this was a chance for us to get off on the right foot. He looked like he was in his 40s, short black hair, a messy beard, and wearing rugged jeans. I noticed behind him, all the lights in his house were still off. "Is there something I can do for you?" In a very quiet, monotone voice, he asked me if I had a phone he could borrow. By chance, I was holding my phone in my hand, and he even looked at it as he asked me, so I couldn't really say no. I opened the phone app and handed it over to him. He then walked to the corner of the porch and held it up to his ear, facing away from me for privacy. He was over there for a minute, mumbling quietly, way too quiet for me to hear anything. And then he walked back over, handed me my phone, and walked away. No, thank you, and no explanation. I watched him go across the street, open his front door, and walk inside. Still, not a single light turned on. I closed the door and went back upstairs. Out of curiosity, I checked the phone app to see the number he had called, but I didn't see it. There were no recent outgoing or incoming calls. But then, what the hell was the point? Did he really just fake a phone call? I didn't understand, and for some reason I got very upset. I felt like I'd been tricked or used for something, and I didn't even know what for. I got right up from my bed, put my shoes on, and walked across the street to his house to get some answers. As I got up to his porch, I again noticed just how dark it was in his house, and how quiet it was too. I knocked on the door, which I guess wasn't fully closed, because it swung open when I hit it. From there, I could see that the house was essentially empty, no furniture or boxes, and completely pitch black, even though I knew he was inside. I'm not trying to judge how someone else lives, but hanging out in a blacked out house with no lights on was creepy as hell. I called out, hoping he'd explain himself about the phone thing. "Hey, are you in there? I want to talk." The whole house was just quiet though, as if he wasn't even in there. But after waiting for 20 seconds, the door suddenly slammed into the door frame, shutting in my face. I actually fell backwards, jump scared and caught off guard by it. He must have been standing right behind the door the whole time. What the actual was going on? I backed away from the house, then ran back to mine and got inside. I strongly considered calling the police just because of this awful gut feeling I had about everything, and him possibly messing with my phone seemed like a decent excuse. But for 15 minutes, I didn't take action or do anything. I just paced around the house, occasionally looking out the window and thinking about what to do, until I heard something outside. And a second later, loud, fast knocking came against the front door. I ran up and looked, seeing the neighbor guy standing outside the door. He had a backpack on and looked like he was leaning up to the door, like he was pressing on it. "Hey, open up." I didn't answer. "Come on, I'll explain everything, I swear." I moved away from the door and called the cops. I was too scared now to let this go on any longer. The man repeatedly knocked on the door, and I even saw the door handle shake a few times, though I think he was trying to be subtle about it, checking if I had locked it. I'm really thankful an officer got there quick because he never had a chance to give up and run off. He tried heading back to his house when the cop car showed up, but he didn't even get across the street, and the first thing the cop did was search his bag. Disturbingly, he found weapons and common kidnapping items like duct tape and zip ties. That was enough for them to get a search warrant on the house and do an investigation into what was going on. Turned out the man was actually renting the house and using a stolen identity. Some company had bought the place right away, and the man rented it from them just a few weeks afterward. Still doesn't explain the 6-month gap, but the house also had nothing in it, just like I'd seen. Like actually, not a single thing inside of it, aside from a mattress on the floor upstairs, and some supplies in the basement, the same stuff that he had in his bag. I had no contact with him after that night, but from what I've heard, he was just some insane, unhinged man with a sick mind, planning to do horrible things, not just to me, but to pretty much anyone he happened to come across. If things went on any longer, I probably wouldn't have been the only victim.